Hello and welcome back to another video, and today we are doing some farmyard maintenance. In particular, filling up this hole. As you can see, sort of a hole being made here on this is it's sand. I think there's a layer of stone or something underneath it, and we put sand down because one year we did put a line of silage bales there, and we didn't want to be putting them on sharp stones like it is there, except they were more sort of looser stones. So we just done the whole place in sand, just this section here, and put a line of bales there. And obviously now it's been taken up with some rotten hay bales that need to go at some point for dung or whatever. But yeah, over the winter or any wet bad period we get, any wet day, this does fill up with water. If I have a clip and I remember to put it into it, I'll put it into this video of this puddle full of water. But yeah, over especially the winter and the wetter periods, it does fill up with water, and the sand here and all there sort of gets all soft and guttery. And with tractors constantly backing out and driving out of the shed, having to drive in that to swing around and out there, it's not really ideal. So today I am going to fill it up while the weather is dry, while there's no water in the hole, and it should be way easier to do. So the plan is I'm going to put in a layer of rocks. I'll show you the rocks now in a minute, but I'm going to put in a layer of rocks in there first as sort of an underlay, and just so I'm not using too much stone or sand or whatever I decide to use as a top layer. But yes, small bits of rocks just to fill up the hole a bit, and then a top layer of stone or something like that. Preferably I'll probably use stone because we have a bit of stone here on the yard and a bit of stone up at the house. So here are the stones or rocks here, and I'm not going to be using the big chunky ones. I'm going to use smaller ones as possible. The likes of that and a couple of tins like that should fill up the hole. Maybe likes of this, but nothing major like that or anything. I'm not going to be, breaking my back lifting a monstrosity of a rock like that. Just small, handy sized ones that I'll throw into the box on the 135. A couple of these smaller ones as well. Any ones that I can lift that I'm not going to break my back with, because I'm not here to break my back now, but I'm here to fill up a hole. There's a couple down there, but I'll just pick out any handy sized rocks just to fill up that hole, and then an overlay of stones. Now we do have a pile of stones over at the house across the road there, which are better, but we also have two piles here. Now the only thing is, these aren't your regular piles of stones. This is basically a top layer of road that the council broke up, because just out there, what they used to do out on the road there is just every now and then, every couple of years, just put a fresh layer of tarmac on top of the old tarmac, and eventually it started rising and rising, and then just a big hill appeared from our house and out at the yard. You had to climb up a big hill to get onto the road, and it wasn't just in our general location. Everybody was getting pissed off in their location, and eventually a hill was made to go up from their property onto the road. So a lot of complaints were made to Mayo County Council, so they had to take a couple of inches of tar off the road, get it sort of back down to normal, manageable sized, and then put tar over it again. And when they were doing our section out there, they said, "Do you want some stone?" And we said yes. So yeah, this is basically tar, stones with tar in it, and it's all sort of hard, which would be quite good for the hole because it'll all connect up and be somewhat like a road. But the only thing is, I'll have to get a pickaxe and try and break it. Depending on how much the rocks fill up the hole, I don't know how much stone I need. So I could use that, get a pickaxe, break it up, shovel it into the box in the 135, or I could go across the road and get actual stone from like a quarry. Just your actual loose stones that you get in a quarry, which would be way easier because all I have to do is get a shovel and shovel it into the box. But I might still end up using this. It sort of depends how much these rocks fill up the hole. I'm going to use these rocks and fill up the hole as much as possible, so I'm only putting a somewhat thin layer of stone on top, so I'm not using too much. But yeah, the only way to find out is to get stuck into it, get the rocks over into the hole, and see how much of the hole we can fill up before we even think about a top layer. Because if it's not too much, I might try and get a pickaxe and break any of those two piles up and then put it into the hole. But if not, we do have a small pile of actual stones to get in the quarry above at our house, which would be way easier. So yeah, I will get the 135 and the box, and we'll park it as close as we can to the rocks, I guess, and start putting them into the box and then putting them into the hole. There we go. I don't want to bring too much, because I mightn't even need all of them, and then I'm only coming back here and throwing them back there. So it's enough manhandling them once rather than having to do it twice, because if I bring too many and I don't need them all, it's just more of them that I have to throw back where they were. So the less I bring, I can always come back for more if I need more, and there won't be as many then left over if there is any left over. But you know, all I know is that I need to take a minute's break and catch my breath, because I climbed down there and got any other ones that were down at the bottom and threw them up here near the box. Whether or not the camera picked it up or not, I don't know, but yeah, it's not easy work anyways. It's not for the weak. But yeah, also before I started, I got a pickaxe just there and I started breaking some of that. Some of it is it's breaking in very small chunks, so you'd be there quite a while. So the plan is try and fill the hole up as much as possible with the rocks, and then either use some of this. I didn't even try breaking this. This stuff could be easier, so I'll try breaking that in a minute, but that's way harder. It's just tar. But I looked at the hole and it is quite big, so I might have to use a mixture. I might use a mixture of the tar stones, and then I might have to go and get a little bit of the quarry stones up at our own house, because it's only a small pile of stones that's up at our own house, and I don't really want to use it all in case it needs to be used elsewhere. So yeah, anyways, we'll go back to the hole and start placing these rocks in it and see how it looks after. Right, so I used the tractor off camera and I drove over and back on it just to use the weight of the tractor to sort of sink them down into the ground as much as I can. You can clearly see that they are stuck into the ground better. There's a few jutty bits like this one which I might just use, might get more smaller rocks in the box and just sort of line them around there so there isn't sort of an edge with a big rock there like that one there. So you know, I think a couple of smaller rocks, sprinkle them around the place, drive over again with the tractor to sink them in, and then we'll go over and get some stone. But looking at it now, it's sort of filled up nicely. I think the stone might just give it a sort of an extra protection layer on top for any sort of sharper bits so we don't get any punctures or anything like that. So stone on top, you could probably leave it like that, but it's better to be safe than sorry, and maybe just use a nice layer of stone as a protection to just sort of hide the sharper bits on the rocks there. But overall, I'm fairly happy with how it's coming out. It's looking way better than what it was anyways, and it shouldn't fill up with too much water by the time I'm finished. Obviously, if I leave it like that, you're still going to get water in some hollow patches here and there. So yeah, a couple of small stones for there, just to fill up any hollow patches that are still in it. And we'll have another look at it after I do that, and then I think it's time for stones. And I might even replace a couple of these thicker ones here, like that one and that one there, maybe with some sort of flatter ones, so they aren't jutting up as much. Because that, I don't know if you can see it or not, there it is, it's sort of, there's a bit of a cliff there, and I'm a bit worried that it could damage tires in the future. So yeah, we'll see what we can do. But yeah, again, let's get a couple of smaller stones this time. All right, so we filled up a couple of small stones. There was a couple of small ones there, and then literally the far side of that pile of scrap, there's also a couple of stones or rocks there, so I put some of them in there as well. I put some smaller ones in just to fill up the smaller gaps, and a couple of flat ones just to level off any bits that are sticking up a small bit. So yeah, and I also broke some of this stuff with the pickaxe, which is this stuff is way easier break up than that stuff there, but it's still very, very hard work. But you can see I've loosened some up with the pickaxe, and hopefully we won't need too much, because it is hard work having to use the pickaxe to break it up, the shovel to load it into the box, and then I have to use the shovel then to take it out of the box and put it over the hole in the sand. So yeah, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hard work, but you know, once I'm finished, I can look at the job and say I done a good job. So hopefully, anyways, let's go back to the sand, put them rocks in it, drive over and back with them, or over them with the tractor, and flatten them, well, sort of sink them into the ground, and we'll have another look at it and see what the story is saying. Looking good. It's looking fairly good. It's way better than what it was. A big hole full of water and guttery sand. Now it's a hole full of rocks and I guess guttery sand as well, but that's why we're going to go over it now with a layer of stones, sort of to hide the rocks and give it more of a smoother finish, and to hide the guttery sand, which is one of the main reasons why we're filling up the hole, because there was a lot of water in it and guttery sand, and it was all being spread around the farm because it was sticking to the tires of the tractors every time you backed out of the shed. So that's really why we're doing this. And also, if we ever wanted to get these bales, which are last year's bales, if we wanted to use them first, we'd have to come this side, because they're all this year's bales, they're all the new bales. If we wanted to use last year's bales first, we'd have to pick them off through the sand and work that way. But I don't know what he's going doing. And also at some point there's a couple of rotten silage bales there and a couple of rotten hay bales there that need to be gotten rid of, so they'll be constantly probably be the 135 constantly driving over that, getting rid of them. So yeah, it's this was long overdue. It needed to be done. It was a bit of a disgrace, and it's finally getting done at some point. It was getting done now. So yeah, so I'm going to go and fill the box with a couple of them stones over at the pile over there that I have to break up and load in. It's not going to be a very fun day for me. I'm going to be exhausted at the end of it, but I think it's going to be worthwhile. So yeah, anyways, let's go fill the box with a couple of stones. the box full of stones. Hopefully it's going to be enough, but we'll see. It's fairly full. That's the little hole I dug in the top there. The top layer was basically that tarry stone, that stones covered in tar and stuff, tarry stones. And once you broke through that layer of tar stones, as you can see, there's about 2 inches of it there. It sort of went to more dusty, stony type things, which is still good enough. There's still stones in it, but it's mixed with like dust and stuff. So yeah, it was still sort of hard because it was all fairly compacted down, but it was way easier break this than it was break that. My god, that is a nightmare to break. But yeah, this was way easier. There's a little hole here. It'll probably fill up with water the next time it rains, but it's better this filling up with water than the hole in the sand filling up with water, because I don't think there'd be a tractor driving up here. But anyways, yes, hopefully that's going to be enough. I guess the only way to find out really is to go over and start shoveling it out and covering up the rocks and any of the wetter sand that's there as well. And we'll see if it's enough. If it's not enough, it'll be damn close to it. It'll be very, very close. So yeah, I done a time lapse there off camera. I done a small bit the start of it, and then I took a break and I took up the camera, and then I done the rest of it off camera. It took a while. It really, really took a while between having to. I used the sledgehammer. I'll explain it now in a minute, but pickaxe to break everything up, shovel it in. Once all the loose stuff that I broke up was shoveled into the box, again with the pickaxe to break more, shovel, break more, shovel it in, break more, shovel it in, you know. And then every time I broke a piece off, there was sort of lumps like that. So I just threw all the lumps to the side here. When I was finished then, I threw all the lumps into the hole, and I used the sledgehammer to sort of break up the lumps and turn them into that stone. And I then shoveled it into the box. So yeah, there's a nice bit in the box. There's a lot of weight in that box now. So the 135 would be able for it. It's a great little tractor. So yeah, I'll have a quick breather, and then we'll go over to the sand and resume construction work. Even looking at it, it's kind of hard to tell whether there's enough in the box. Obviously the camera mightn't be picking it up as best as if you were seeing it from your own eyes, but yeah, it's hard to tell. It does not, there's no hole to fill. Well, there is a small bit, but I'm just trying to cover up this, so I'd be probably like a half an inch to an inch of cover on top of them stones using that. So, you know, I might have to go for another load similar to that, but again, as I mentioned a minute ago, the only way to find out is to shovel this out onto that and level it out and see how far that box of stuff goes on that. So yeah, we'll put the camera down somewhere and we'll start. think there was enough there. I started scooping it out with the shovel, but then I said, I've already killed myself enough today trying to fill the box. Why don't I just tip the box up, drive out, and then just use the shovel then to level it all out, which is what I done then. So I didn't use my head, and then actually started using my head and made life a little bit easier for myself. And also, to clear up for the comment sections, you might be wondering why this fell out. This isn't actually the floor for this box. That's the floor for the box. It's wrecked. Yeah, it's rusted and it's wrecked. So we just got a big sheet of wood. We cut it to size. We cut out the little grooves there so I could slip into that A-frame. And I forgot all about it, that when I tipped up the box and started jerking it forward, it obviously slipped out with the stones. So all I have to do is slide it back in. It's not a big job. So yeah, that's why that's like that. It's a handy job. It's a handy floor. It was a quick temporary fix to fix the floor in the box. But yeah, I think that came out fairly well. There's a few bigger stones in there that I might pick out, but I want to go over with the tractor first, sort of driving forward and back and using the wheels just to sort of flatten it down a small bit. See how it looks after that. If there's any of the bigger rocks jutting out, I'll just pick them out and throw them back into the box and get rid of them. And then if it ever needs a small bit of more stone, it's not a big job. It won't need too much. The heavy lifting, most of the hard work is done on it now, and it is looking mighty. It's looking delicious. I am very happy with that, actually. All the hard work was actually not for nothing. It was for something. So, you know, when I look at that now, when I go in and back out the 135 or the International and I drive over this, I can go to myself, I done that. So yeah, that's that done, thank God. It is fantastic looking, I have to say. I'm very, very happy with it. But now I just have to slide this back into the box and drive over it with the tractor and level it out, smooth it out, and see how it looks afterwards. Just look at that. Just look at it. It's a work of art, really. But yeah, I drove over with the tractor, as you've seen. It sort of flattened it out. It's a bit sort of soft here. It's very spongy there, so I might have to put another layer of stone there. But for now, it's better than what it was. When there's tractors driving in and out of that shed there and onto this several times, we'll see how it looks after a week, a month, whatever. After a while, we'll see how it looks. If it ever needs more topping up of stones on top, that's not a big job. The big job, the hardest job is sort of done. Sort of filling up the actual hole itself, that was the hardest job, and that is finally done. It's about time. It was overdue. That hole was getting bigger and bigger with tractors constantly driving in and out on top of it. So yeah. And before it got any bigger, sort of why it was getting stretched out that way, because every time the tractor was driving, the wheels going down and then sort of out there, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's better than what it was. I'm very happy with it. I know you probably hear it a lot, and as you can clearly see, there's some yellow stuff on it. That's the yellow marks on the side of the road. As I mentioned, that this stuff came off the road. You can clearly see they're the yellow lines that mark the edge of the road. And because there's tar in that as well, maybe after a couple of days it might harden up like the tar on the road. It's not going to be like the road now. It's not going to be as hard as the tar on the road, but it might harden up similar to the pile that it was taken out from, and it might actually be more sort of sturdy and harder to walk on and drive on and all that after a couple of days. But again, as I mentioned, if it ever needs any top up of stones, it's not a big job. The pile of stones is just over there. The 135 in the box is there. We have the shovel. It's not a big job. It does look good. I know I say that a lot, but yeah. Well, there's nothing else really. That's the video basically done. It's what I wanted to do in this video, and it's now done. So I guess technically it is the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please do give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe and turn the bell notification icon on to be notified of every future video I upload. Don't forget to check out my merch and the gate mate. The links to them will be down in the description. That is it for me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Take care.